So thank you so much for joining the Daily Miracle Lesson class. And in this class, we look at different lessons of A Course in Miracles. And it is great if you do the lessons, then it makes a lot of sense in what we're doing. So I'm always using one of the key lessons. I'm always using something from the text that is related to the lesson. And today we also have a prayer lesson that is also very lovely and very much to the point. So what is the point? And well, that's what we're going to find out in this half hour that we come together, or in this hour that we come together in class. So the lesson of today is then lesson, I got it here. I'll read the title to you. Holding grievances is an attack on God's plan for salvation. See, that's not a beginner's lesson. Holding grievances is an attack on God's plan for salvation. So that holds a lot of information. And we're going to take a look at parts of it. And also at your own attitude or your own idea about what is going on in your awakening, because that's always interesting to look at, especially when the whole setup is for the undoing of what you think about yourself. So in this class we come together and say an important part is to meet each other in the right place. That makes it so much easier. So that's why I always spend some time in introduction, if you want, or calming down, relaxing, coming into a meditative state, letting things go, letting all the concepts that you carry around go for a moment. So you can say also then, the moment that we come together in this, it is really for you a moment to release all the things that you held on to for just a moment, or occupying your mind as an important thing. Like, you let it go now. And how do you do that letting go? Because that's easier said than done sometimes. So your mind wants something to do. That's for sure. It cannot stop grabbing stuff, to keep itself busy. So here's one suggestion then, to focus your attention on your breath, for instance, just to give your mind something to do. And it works pretty good, it works pretty good. So, become completely present here. Focus on your breath while you're actually slowing down. Let your thoughts come up and let them rise and let them go. You don't need to follow them. You don't need to engage with them. So, and the same with everything else that's coming up, emotions, or something that's really with you at this point, or something that's really close to your heart at this point. Like, don't give it attention right now. Just allow it to flow away or to change. So that's what we do. So we focus on our breath. So for instance, breathe in a couple of times deeply into your belly and breathe out. So mostly the breathing in is through the nose, and that helps to come deeper into your belly. It's the easiest thing then. So without lifting your shoulders, and then you breathe out. And breathe in, breathe out. And with every time that you breathe out, you let go. Let this go. I don't need this for now. I'm letting this go. So actively your mind is doing something. It appears that way. For your mind, it works, because it cannot place its attention on two things at the same time, even though it might look like it sometimes. So in that meditative state that we're about to enter into, we come to a place where it's still, where actually you feel that you're present and you're okay without doing something. So you could say, like, that's really like a state of meditation. Here we are, relaxing into that, becoming still. Yes. So you feel some relief in for only just by relaxing, you feel a relief. I don't need to do that. Now I feel better myself. I feel myself better. And yes, I can even relax deeper into that too. Why not allow myself to do so in this hour, in this moment that we come together? I don't need to really pay attention to what I'm saying. No, this is communicating with you by your relaxation. It literally starts to communicate in this stillness. Okay, I will not spend more words on that. So you know what I'm talking about. You're familiar with this, probably. You have had some experiences of meditation. You did this maybe for a very long time. So this is then the new practice for you to use. So your mind can be at rest all the time. You don't need to react to what I'm saying. You don't need to follow up on the thing that's being, that whatever comes up, like your resistance or your, like, oh, is that really true? Or, all these things that come up when you listen to something. This is all like, okay, let the mind go down, so to speak. Let the mind relax. It doesn't need to respond to anything. No, it is just present. It is here. It is present. Yeah, that was a good one. That was a good sigh. Yeah. So do you start to feel relaxed? Can you let go of what happened a moment ago and leave that out of this place where we're entering in now? Okay, so in connection with that, I will not start with the lesson immediately, but I'm starting with something that's describing, in fact, the state that we're entering into now, the state that we come to now, and that is your Christ mind. So in chapter 24, there are some parts that I want to read, and it's like a continuation of what we're doing now. It's not different, or it's not anything else. So stay with me right here. And the section is called The Resolution of the Dream, and you can find it on page 226. The Christ in you is very still. He looks on what he loves and knows it as himself, and thus he rejoices in what he sees, because he knows that it is one with him and with his Father. So this is the part that I want to use right now. And there's another sentence coming up. Here's another sentence. It's on F6. The Christ in you is very still. He knows where you are going, and he leads you there in gentleness and blessing all the way. The Christ in you is very still. He knows where you are going, and he leads you there in gentleness and blessing all the way. The sight, that's F8, the sight of Christ is all there is to see. The song of Christ is all there is to hear. The hand of Christ is all there is to hold. There is no journey but to walk with him. So this is great. So all these aspects of this, all these aspects are revealing to us, in fact, our salvation. So that is God's plan for salvation is this, in fact. It's like recognizing in your brother yourself and being happy with that, being happy with the recognition, because you know that he's also one with your Father, one with everything there is. It is really the function that you have here, to come in touch with that, to feel that, to allow that, to extend that by recognizing it. It's not that you have to do a lot of things, no. But it is asked for you to become still. Like the Christ in you is very still. So in order to experience him, become still, and it, it's given you. So today we're looking at different parts of this, because there's some things that are really in the way for you to see this or to experience this. So that's the grievance part, for instance, that we're reading about in the lesson. But what actually is a grievance then? Like, there's no definition of a grievance. You see what it does, but there's no definition of it. So I would love to come up with some examples, since I'm very experienced in recognizing grievances, because I've taken a look at this, and also grievances are not always recognizable for you, because in fact, as a human being, everything that you see, think, and do is what a grievance is. So that's quite general, right? So you might not see it all at once, how you are holding grievances. So that's a great opportunity to dive deeper into it and have something revealed to you. Like always with this. Like once you have heard this, so that's the warning, kind of. That's kind of the warning. Once you hear this, you're not able to unhear it. So it's really like a revelation. Once it is revealed to you, your eyes are opened. You cannot pretend that you don't know. So if you don't want that, you might as well stop watching this or stop listening to this. But if you're, say, brave enough to stay with this, to recognize your true essence, and to come to a whole new understanding about yourself, not caring whatever it takes to get there, so to speak, then just stay and listen and enjoy, because it's really like recognizing yourself in your brother, like me, or whoever you meet, recognizing yourself and joining with that and being pleased with that is really what this is about, because the side effect of that is that you have peace of mind, which is really like the goal of this course, having peace of mind and not losing it. So having peace of mind, okay, you might be familiar with that and thinking, well, I am great deal of today, I'm doing pretty good, I'm all right, and but then not much has to happen for you to, say, be blown off the wagon, so to speak, and fall into a trap, into one of your own created traps, in which you can, attack again. So, like I said, we're going to take a look at the lesson, but I wanted to mention these three, say, pillars of Christhood. It's very still. It loves what it sees. It joins with what it sees. It adds its joy to what it sees. And see, it alone can see. It alone can hear. And it alone can hold your hand. That's pretty amazing. So we come to that later too. So I'll get back to 24. So now I'm starting with some parts of the 72 lesson on page 321. See, I had these great little mark papers, so that works really efficient. It's very old-fashioned, but it works. So, holding grievances is an attack on God's plan for salvation. So, there must be a plan for you then, a plan of salvation, a plan for salvation. So that's good to know. There's a plan. And holding grievances is an attack on it. So that means it must be a plan connected to love and extension. It's not a plan in how to survive in a world, or it's not a plan in how to attack your brother efficiently. No, this is about the other way around. It's like how In fact, it comes down to 2 commandments: loving your neighbor as yourself, and loving God with all of your heart. In fact, that is the basic principle in the lesson 72, and 72. And it moves us in a totally different direction than you would expect when you read the title. So I'm reading a couple of sentences of some paragraphs. So that's not so easy to say, like, okay, what are we actually reading? Well, it's in the first paragraph, but it's the last part of the paragraph, for instance. In the attack, so holding grievances is an attack on God's plan for salvation. In the attack, God is assigned the attributes which are actually associated with the ego, while the ego appears to take on the attributes of God. See, this change is fundamental. The ego's fundamental wish is to replace God. In fact, the ego is the physical embodiment of this wish. For it is this wish which seems to surround the mind with a body, keeping it separate and alone, and unable to reach other minds except through the body which was made to imprison it. And then it says really great, the limit on communication cannot be the best means to expand communication. Well, no, that's true. That is true. So, unable to reach other minds except through the body which was made to imprison it. So you really think, and this is much more fundamental than you think. It's like you think that you need to go to someone and verbally speak to someone to communicate. That's one thing that you assume, right? And that's a very normal human thing to do, while it's not true. So in fact, you're in constant communication, but you lost the ability or the awareness of that's the case. So you think that you can only reach someone by picking up your phone and making a call, or visiting them or seeing them, thinking that is really going to do it. Then you think that you are communicating. That's another mistake. See, these are fundamental ideas that are actually being shared, which you don't recognize when you read this right away. So it's really good to stand still and listen to this, because it will reveal so many things. It's unbelievable. Because it's also, say, one of the key lessons, so it holds a lot of, say, other lessons in them too, and really brings in a new idea about communication. Okay, so then we move to L4, which is the 4th paragraph, and then go to the last part of the paragraph. We are actively trying to hold him to it by confusing it with him and judging them as one. Herein is God attacked, for if his Son is only a body, so must he be as well. A creator wholly unlike his creation is inconceivable. Now we're bouncing on a fundamental idea about your image of God. Like God creates in his own image. Well, I don't know, but did you see God walk around in a body, like a huge, amazing, all-encompassing body? No, of course not. You would think of him maybe as a certain person, or with incredible powers or magical powers, but that's also not what it is. So you know that this is not the right say image of God, that you can actually believe that the Creator creates in his image. So that must be then that the way that you think about yourself and others might not be right either. You know, that you think that we're dealing here with bodies, with separate bodies, all created by God, thinking that that's the manifestation of God. thinking that you are that. And so actually assuming also then that there are separate bodies and that they live in different places. In other words, you're trying here in recognizing the idea of that you could be a body, you actually forget about it, but it entails too that you think that you can locate yourself, and you cannot. Well, look for a moment at all the ideas that you hold about locating yourself. I don't know if you work with a GPS system, or I don't know if you make pictures with a certain geotag on them, or that you go on vacation somewhere specific, like not where you live, but somewhere else, thinking that you really go somewhere when you do so. See, these are all assumptions that you take for granted, but actually it's not right. It is because you cannot locate yourself. And is this still a practical way of living then, if I let all these assumptions go? Oh yes, absolutely. So now it's not working. Then it will be working. And what will be working is that you will be happy. So the plan of salvation and fulfilling your function is being happy for no reason, not having to go anywhere for it, not having to do that forever. No, it's just what it is. It is just what you are. So how to practice this? We will do that later on too. In this lesson there are some suggestions too. But like I said, it is based on 2 commandments, which one is like love your God with all of your heart, and then as your neighbor as yourself. So to practice that, if you allow yourself to feel the love for your brother, in that moment you have no idea where you are. You literally dissolve into that, into the love, and you're not locatable. Like, no, that changes everything. You all have experiences like this, maybe with falling in love with someone, that suddenly the whole world seems different and you forget about everything, but not this love of you. So this is not I'm not inviting you to fall in love with everyone, but you can practice this very simply by allowing yourself to love and include everything that you see, instead of rejecting it or of attacking it, or you know what you do with it. And this in the recognition of it's all part of creation. It is like literally the invitation to see this through the eyes of Christ instead of your own eyes. So you wait long enough for that to happen, to melt literally into a recognition of, yes, now I know what that means. You know, and you can do that. You can practice that right now. You know, it's like so lovely to do that. Why don't you just melt down in it? You know, it's lovely. So in this lesson we continue with very specific instructions to enter into a direct experience of light and love. So I continue on that. We come to it in a moment. So here is the 5th paragraph. I'm starting with I think the 2nd or 3rd sentence. The body's apparent reality makes this view of God quite convincing. In fact, if the body were real, it would be difficult indeed to escape this conclusion. And every grievance that you hold insists that the body is real. It overlooks entirely what your brother is. It reinforces your belief that he is a body and condemns him for it. And it asserts that his salvation must be death, projecting his attack on God onto God and holding him responsible for it. Okay, take the little you can get. God gave you nothing. The body is your only savior. This is the ego talking to you. It is the death of God and your salvation. This is the universal belief of the world you see. The body is your only savior. It is the death of God and your salvation. This is the universal belief of the world you see. So if you cannot find your place in this world, you still try to adapt to it, but thinking like, well, it is not the place for me. Like, I will never be able to connect with this in a constructive way by my means. It's logical, that's actually a good sign. So you don't have to fit into this world. It is like, this is so much insanity that's being, exposed to yourself. And that can be that can be undone. And also it's like the recognition that, no, you don't belong there. It can be undone in you by recognizing who you are. See, and the instruction for that is coming up. But we're still talking about the body. Some hate the body and try to hurt and humiliate it. Others love the body and try to glorify and exalt it. But while it stands at the center of your concept of yourself, you are attacking God's plan for salvation and holding your grievances against Him and His creations, that you may not hear the voice of truth and welcome it as a friend. Your chosen Savior takes His place instead. It is your friend. He is your enemy. We will try today to stop these senseless attacks on salvation. We will try to welcome it instead. Okay, so I'm continuing about the body. L8, in the middle of the paragraph. It is the body that is outside of us and is not our concern. The light of truth, one sentence above that, the light of truth is in us where it was placed by God. It is the body that is outside us and is not our concern. To be without the body is to be in our natural state. To recognize the light of truth in us is to recognize ourselves as we are. To see ourselves as separate from the body is to end the attack on God's plan for salvation and to accept it instead. And wherever it is accepted, it is accomplished already. So there's a lot of body stuff going on in this lesson. It's like, we're really looking at that. It's really been shaken, our ideas about how to look at it. Like, it cannot be your concern. Let go of your concern about your body. Or don't even call it your body. Call it the body. Or the idea that I hold about the body. So this is not so easy to accept right away. You have to see it and you have to be with it. And you practice this lesson on the 69th of in the 72nd day of the year. So that must be like last week, if you follow it from the 1st of January. So the body, it always comes back in the course with all kinds of lessons, and it is always like, it can shift into invisibility. You can do without. Actually, you would be in your natural state if you don't see yourself as in a body. See, these are controversial ideas for a human mind. Like, how would you ever understand this, what is going on? Because of our belief that the body gives us something or is so part of us, is so, like, we're so identified with it, thinking really that is us. And at the same time, that is a total attack on the plan for salvation. And you will not be able to hear the voice when you take that as your identity. See, all these things work together against truth, in fact. So it's like there's no way of trying to find a middle way in this. That's obvious. So then there's one more part of the paragraph of L10. It's on page 322. We have attacked God's plan for salvation without waiting to hear what it is. We have shouted our grievances so loudly that we have not listened to his voice. We have used our grievances to close our eyes and stop our ears. Now we would see and hear and learn. What is salvation, Father? Ask and you will be answered. Seek and you will find. We are no longer asking the ego what salvation is and where to find it. We're asking it of truth. Be certain then that the answer will be true because of whom you ask. Okay, so we stop right there. So this is the part of the lesson that is so fundamental. Like, oh my God. So you're in the middle of it. In fact, you recognize I'm in the middle of this attack on God's plan for salvation. That's what I've been doing so far. And now what? How do I get out of this? Or how can I stop doing this? I'm so familiar with it. I'm so used to doing that. So now what do you do to get out of it? And that is, recognizing it, recognizing what you think and how you are accustomed to that. Coming into the awareness that it doesn't need to be that way. You can allow yourself to experiment, so to speak, with letting these ideas go or being changed for you. So in 24, we come back to some fundamental things that you do with yourself in thinking, and also why it seems so hard to make this change, because that's obvious too, So there's some parts. Let me see if I can find it right away. So I looked it up. Yeah, here it is. It's on G12, 24 G12. So this is so fundamental. That's why I love to read it to you. Like, it's pretty amazing. It literally says it plainly what it is that you do with your mind. So G12 on 228. G12. Now you are merely asked that you pursue another goal with far less vigilance and with little effort and with little time, and with the power of God maintaining it and promising success. So that's pretty amazing. So you're merely asked that you pursue another goal with far less vigilance, with little effort and with little time, and with the power of God maintaining it and promising success. Yet of the two, so the other one was this one. I'll read that to you too, because then it becomes really obvious. So in G11 it says, and then we come back to G12. Specialness is the function that you gave yourself. It stands for you alone, as self-created, self-maintained, in need of nothing and unjoined with anything beyond the body. In its eyes, you are a separate universe, with all the power to hold itself complete within itself, with every entry shut against intrusion and every window barred against the light, always attacked and always furious, with anger, always fully justified. You have pursued this goal with vigilance you never thought to yield, and effort that you never thought to cease. With all this grim determination was for this. All this grim determination was for this. You wanted specialness to be the truth. It's not just that you wanted to be special, but also that your specialness was the truth. Okay, so yet of the two, the one I just read to you and the one before that, it is this one you find more difficult, the one that asks nothing of you, the one that asks far less vigilance, little effort, little time, and the power of God maintaining it and promising success. You find that one more difficult. The sacrifice of self you understand, nor do you deem this cost too heavy, but a tiny willingness, a nod to God, a greeting to the Christ in you, yet find the burden worrisome and tedious, too heavy to be borne. Yet to the dedication to the truth as God established it, no sacrifice is asked, no strain called forth, and all the power of heaven and the might of truth itself is given to provide the means and guarantee the goal's accomplishment. So this is good to know. It's like a little background information about your own state of mind. So I don't know if you're happy to hear this, but I'm actually happy to hear this. It's like, okay, so you got a choice. You can still work on making yourself special and having specialness to be your truth. So that means like living your life as a human being, becoming someone, being someone, trying to establish an image, trying to separate yourself off enough that you have your own privacy in which you can be in your little kingdom, enjoy that for yourself and forget about the rest. So it's like that is one part that you can choose. So which is a lot of work, and you know it. It was a lot of work, and you've been doing it really vigilant. Like you put a lot of effort in it to become special. So it's good to look at all these facets and how you did that. How you want to be special, how you do that, and how you maintain it, because it needs to be maintained, otherwise it falls apart. So now here's the other choice. It's all established, it's all full of success, it's going to happen. The only thing it asks of you is a nod to God, and like, yes, God, I'm ready. Or a smile to Christ, or, it's like being open for the Christ to come to you, to hold his hand, to allow the light to come in, not to defend yourself, to allow what is to be. You don't have to make it, you don't have to prove it, you don't have to do anything with it, except allowing it. So that is the great part. I'm so happy that I found this, because when I read it, it was like, oh yeah, that's exactly the pivot point. That's so great that comes to us in this moment when we're dealing with attacking God's plan for salvation. You literally read here what you're doing. So this specialness is also all the ideas that you hold about being a separate body, being your, dated version of yourself with a moment that you were born and maybe some more years to live. This whole concept of yourself is embedded in your specialness. So, and that's the one that you made the best out of yourself, so to speak. You made the best of it, and you put so much effort in it. And now it falls apart. I'm sorry. You don't have to hold it up anymore. You don't have to, make this real for yourself anymore. And you will be in very good hands, because this takes little effort. You hardly have to do anything for it. And success is guaranteed. Like, you will certainly hear what God's plan for salvation is. Finally, your mind opens up to ask the question, but what is salvation, Father? I don't know. I've been working against it, but I don't even know what it is. I would love to experience what my salvation is and where I can find it, and what it really is as a total experience of myself. finally I come to the place where I can ask it and am open to receive that. So this is in fact what you have to do in order for you to know what the plan is. You might know that God has a plan for salvation to you, for you, but you might also immediately reject it, already feeling the resistance to accepting it, which is weird because you don't know yet what it is. But like I said, we come now, after this what we read and what came to us, we come to the place where we actually are starting to acknowledge God, not in the image that we made of him, not in the way that he should come to us on our terms. No, just as it is, just as it comes to us, just as we can accept it. And then the relationship with our brother is immediately also then part of this. So that means in you recognizing the Christ in your brother and not anything else, seeing that there's someone to love in your brother, in the recognition at the same time of our, say, we share the same father, we come from the same father, so we're like a spiritual family with one another. So great to have at least the pointing in this direction. It's like, this is what you can do. Let your world collapse. It seems like a big deal, but it is not. It's only a big deal if you value a lot in it. If you just allow it to fall apart for a moment, then you immediately start to feel the love for your brother. And you feel that everyone is with you. You're not a separate body. You're not alone. You cannot lose the ones you love. No, they're all with you. Nobody's ever lost. They're all here. You're here right in the middle of that. But you can't see it if you trust your eyes, because your eyes tell you that you buried someone. Your eyes tell you that that somebody died. Your eyes told you that there's a war going on. Your eyes tell you all kinds of stuff. But say, here's the thing. You look with eyes that cannot see. You hear with ears that are not made to hear. You have no hands to touch, to feel. You don't. But it doesn't exclude you from feeling and experiencing everything that is real. No, you can use the hands of the Christ and the ears of the Christ and the eyes of the Christ, Christ vision, in order to see, hear. So that is also shared in this part of 24. I'll read that to you. Well, I read it to you already. The sight of Christ is all there is to see. The song of Christ is all there is to hear. The hand of Christ is all there is to hold. There's no journey but to walk with him. You would be content with specialness and seek salvation in a war with love. Consider this. The Holy Lord of heaven has himself come down to you to offer you your own completion. So this is F8. What is his is yours, because in your completion is his own. He who willed not to be without his son could never will that you be brotherless. And would he give a brother unto you except as he be as perfect as yourself, and just as to him in holiness as you must be? Okay, well, that's very exciting. This is very exciting news. It's like God himself came down to show you your brother to yourself. Literally seeing the perfection in your brother. If you start to open your eyes for the perfection of your brother, you're actually fulfilling your function, because you recognize the perfection in you as well. That is always the beauty of this. It's like, and in the recognition of the perfection of you, you're actually directly communicating with God. Of course, like I said, no, you're not separate from anyone. No, you did not lose the ones you love. They're all with you. In your recognition of the perfection of your brother, the total love you feel for your brother, you recognize that you're one with all, and that everyone is with you, that you did not lose anyone. So this is pretty amazing, and it will say increase healing in an incredible way, because this is what you actually wanted to hear. This is what actually you recognize as the truth about you. You want to feel this, you want to experience this. And here's just a lesson given to us in which to discover that. You know, that's so wild, that's so amazing. So spend more time with me is what we heard the last time. It's like spend more time with Christ, because he's the one holding your hand. He's the only one that really holds your hand. And who's the Christ? That is your brother. When you see him in perfection, in the eyes of perfection, when you recognize in him that you're not separate from you, that he's not separate from you, and that he's literally representing the perfection in which you were created. So that's really lovely. So great to see this, hear this, and read this. It is all in here. It's amazing. So this book, the text and the lessons are so related to one another. It's wild. It's beautiful. I love that. I love that. So it really supports one another. You could really see like, oh yeah, this was made for lesson this one, and that was made for lesson that one. While you actually, when you read through the text, it seems to be a separate book from the workbook. Not at all. Not at all. So going to the prayer lessons, there's one prayer I would love to read you, a miracle prayer. And I put this great little marker, so that would be really easy for me to find it now. So this has to do with your goal, remembering your goal. 258 on page 400. Let me remember that my goal is God. All that is needful is to train our minds to overlook all little senseless aims and to remember that our goal is God. His memory is hidden in our minds, obscured by our pointless little goals which offer nothing and do not exist. So, shall we continue to allow God's grace to shine in unawareness, while the toys and trinkets of the world are sought instead? God is our only goal, our only love. We have no aim but to remember Him. So here we are in our prayer. Heavenly Father, our goal is but to follow in the way that leads to you. We have no goal but this. What could we want but to remember you? And what could we seek but our identity? Let me remember that my goal is God's. That my goal is God. All right. Thank you. Thank you for joining me in that. Thank you so much. And we stop here with the online part of the class, at least the YouTube part of the class. So I hope to see you soon. And we continue in the class with sharing and see what happens. So thank you for this, and see you soon. Thank you.